So on the back of the sheet, so this is portion 2 of the review, you're going to notice that this inequality over here is an and inequality. This is what's in the middle. Move the paper a little bit. Okay, and just like we did in class, that middle, I'm going to copy it twice. So I'll copy it on this side and then on this side as well. Okay, and then the inequality, that's at the end. Over here, I will write it over here, greater than or equal to -8. And over here it will be less than or equal to 8. And then I will solve each separately. I notice here I have to do distributive property. -2 times x, -2x, -2 times -9, 18. So I have 8 is greater than or equal to -2x plus 18. I do inverse operations to isolate the x. And then here, remember, when it's a positive and a negative, you subtract and you keep the sign of the largest. So it would be -10. When I come to this step, I notice that my coefficient is negative. So when I divide, I'm going to divide by a negative. So I must switch the sign. So then I would have 5, and then I would switch it around to less than or equal to x. Okay, so this is one side. The other side, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go ahead and solve. I already distributed that. It's the same thing in the middle, so I will still get -2x plus 18, positive. Okay, inverse operations again. This time around, they are both negative, so you would add and keep the sign. And then over here, I also notice that my coefficient is negative, so whenever I divide, I will divide by a negative, which means I will have to switch the sign. So now this one would be this way, and this would be +13. Once I finish that, you know, your x's should be in the middle already, so you just merge them together as one inequality. So x would be in the center, and on this side, x is less than, one cookie, right, 2 cookies, or equal to 13, and x over here is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, remember, in the and inequalities are facing the same way, and then I will just graph. So here I could see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, running out of ink. Your numbers here can look different than mine since the number line is empty. You can put whatever numbers or do it by 2s or by 3s, however you wish. So 5 and 13 would both have a closed circle because they are or equal to. So they would have a closed circle. Okay, and then x is in between those. So greater than or equal to 5. So greater than or equal to 5 would be to the right. And less than 13 would be over here. So as you can see, they would join in the middle. So your graph would look like that. So that's that problem. The next one, number 5, is an OR. So I know I'm going to have two different ones. They already split by the OR over here. So I will solve each. Over here, they're both over 7. So I know that when I have a denominator of 7, I'm going to multiply by 7 so that I can eliminate those. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. Those eliminate over here, so it works out perfectly. So I'm only left with the x and the 4 right there. And it's done. So that's one of my inequalities. The other one, I have to do more steps. So I put my line down the middle. Okay, and I'm going to isolate the x. So I'm going to cover these right here. Inverse operations. -2x is less than 4. One is positive, one is negative, so I subtract and keep the sign of the largest. Over here, I'm going to notice that my coefficient is negative. So I'm going to have to divide by a negative. Therefore, I'm going to have to switch the sign when I do. So I'm going to switch it, and this will be -2. So these are my two inequalities. And I'm going to have x is greater than 4, and this is a closed circle. So I'm going to do it, this will be 0, and then I'm going to do 2, 4, -2, -4, -6, etc. Okay, so at positive 4, it'll be a closed circle, and x's are greater than that, so it'll move this way to the right. Greater is to the right. And x is greater than negative 2, so negative 2 would be open circle, and it'll move this way. Notice that this OR inequality overlaps, and it's okay. The difference between that is that in the AND, it would stop right there, and the OR, it keeps going because it can be either or, even if they overlap. Remember, in class, usually I told you that OR inequalities usually face different ways, but there are cases like these where they overlap in some parts and in others not, but they're doing the same direction here. So this would be that inequality. Okay, and the last portion of your review, the last portion of your review is another inequality, and you're just graphing and solving and graphing. So for this part right here, I would have to distribute either with your arrows or with the box. So that would be 3w plus 9, and then I bring down whatever I did not have to distribute. This one's a regular inequality, multi-step. It is not a compound, so I just have to worry about this one. These two are like terms, so I'm going to combine them together. I would do inverse operations so that I can isolate the w. These both are negatives, so I will add them together and keep the sign. And then I would divide by negative 6. Over here, because my coefficient was negative and I divided by a negative, I'm going to have to switch the sign. And then over here, you can leave it as a fraction, or you can simplify. Since you're graphing it, you can also leave it in mixed numbers so that it's easier for you to know where to graph it. So this would be 6 1/6, and negative divided by a negative would be positive. So when you do that, you can 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. So 6 1/6 would be somewhere here, and it's a closed circle. And all the values that are less than or equal to that, so it would move to the left because less than. And that would be your solution.